So hello and welcome back to the Champ.ie podcast, episode number 14 for the season. We've been around 14 weeks now this year, and the feature race this weekend that we've decided to zone in on is the Solerina Mares novice race at Fairyhouse. And our special guest on the show is Peter Fahey, who trains Royal Kahala. There is no betting as of yet, but you expect her to be ahead of the market after her 2 wins at Fairyhouse and 3 wins so far this season. Joined again by Mike Vince from SIS, Davy Boland from Racing's Inside Track TV, and the Ronan Groome from the Irish Field. Davy, we'll come to you because you were down at Gordon today. Good day's racing?
Yeah, it's good racing. Very tough conditions. I'd say I wouldn't have went ahead if it was another meeting only for the day that was in it. I know racing's strange without crowds, but it's very weird there today now because Tiesa always has such a big crowds and great atmosphere at it. But it was good racing. Good winner for Mouse Morris and the big one then for Gordon and Jack. And there was a very impressive 4-year-old winner in the bumper. I know Ronan doesn't like bumpers, but I'd say this is a good horse.
And Ronan Groome with a backlog of Irish racing. Just we must quickly touch on Thurles because I know you're a big fan of Ellie May and she shortened up significantly after a good run in second behind Allaho. What did you make of that?
Yeah, I thought it was an excellent run. I actually really liked the mare. I think the two of them came clear, and Allaho was obviously right up there at the betting now for the Ryanair. So you put 2 and 2 together, and you got to give Ellie May a big chance in the mare's chase. Thought she jumped lovely again, and as long as Willie is still planning to run her there, I didn't actually hear any comments after the race. There are mare's options at Limerick and stuff. Quite close to quite close to Cheltenham, so maybe he's looking at things like that. I know that's what he was looking at last year, and that's why she didn't go to Cheltenham. But I'd love to see her in the mare's chase. Yeah, I think she'd give it a right rattle.
And Mike Vince must ask you, update on Cabaret Queen. Ran today in the TS. What next for her?
Mark's the Conor McNamara who looked after her. I mean, I would love to see her have an entry in the Grand National. We'll see. She's in a race, the William Fry Chase, the Leopardstown Chase, the 2-5 at the Dublin Racing Festival, but the false start didn't help her. She made a mistake at the second, but she's so game and so gutsy. But on that ground, I mean, I just hope she's okay tomorrow. But I mean, it is really, and it sums up the day at Gordon, doesn't it? It's in his backyard, but I think I'm right in saying that Ronan Groome was in shorts the last time William Mullins drew a blank. It just proves that it's been a very strange old day in many ways.
Yeah, it was good to see Paddy Kennedy getting the 17 winner of the season for local Tom Foley, which is a Michael man local to the track. I suppose that'd be his local track, Tom Foley. Nice to see him get on the board. But coming on, I suppose, to this weekend, special guest on the show, as we did mention, is Peter Fahey. Let's listen to Peter's thoughts about Royal Kahala and the Solerina Mares Novice this weekend at Fairyhouse. I'm delighted to have Peter Fahey on the Champ.ie podcast ahead of the Solerina Mares Hurdle weekend. And Peter, Royal Kahala, she's won 3 on the bounce now at Fairyhouse, and you must be looking forward to seeing her stepping into greater company now, back at Fairyhouse once again.
Yeah, look, we're really looking forward to it. I suppose especially after winning her last 3 there, she has, I suppose, a little bit of an advantage. But look, it'd be good for it. It's a good race, and fingers crossed she puts in a good run,
Yeah, and did she surprise you, Peter, how well she won the last day? Because it looked a decent race with Hookup, Delvino. It looked like a nice race.
It did, yeah. We went into it actually after she won her maiden hurdle. I kind of picked out that race and I thought it'd be an easy kind of stepping stone to the Solerina. And then when I seen the declarations for it, I think it was a very hot race, But yeah, she did. She surprised me how well she done it. Like her last 3 wins, in fairness, she hasn't come off the bridle. So we're actually thrilled the way she's progressing from her first run this year,
And you bought Royal Kahala in conjunction with Oran Crean for the Winning Ways Syndicate. What did you like about her first when you saw her, Peter?
What we liked about her was because Oran first he goes through the pedigrees and bits and pieces and we kind of shortlist them then,
Yeah.
But what the one thing we liked about her was she was a fine big Flemingford filly with a good walk, and there was plenty of fillies in the page that was good. So that kind of attracted us to her, But on the day, like, her fillies were making plenty too, and we're delighted that we kind of got this one. When we came home from day one, the one thing she had a great attitude and willing to please you.
She's a big mare. She looks an imposing mare, and you mentioned by Flemonsford. Would you be confident that she could be just as good on a bit of better ground, or would soft be the key to her in your mind?
Genuinely, I don't think ground depends her too much. She's not too ground dependent. Now look at how she's always ran in heavy ground, but she's a huge, big, long stride in her, which would give me the impression that she wouldn't mind a bit nicer ground easier. But look, in fairness, I look at you have to be more confident with a run on heavy ground, But I couldn't see any reason for not being able to handle a bit of quicker ground too,
And we mentioned the Winning Ways syndicates. Can you talk to me a little bit about the owners, Peter? Because I was reading in the Irish Field that they're not hugely interested in selling this mare, and it looks like they're willing to ride their luck with this one.
Yeah, in fairness, I think Owen Green sets up the syndicate, and he selects the horses. He might have a couple of shares sold before we go to the sales, and then he carries them and kind of sells them off as it goes along. But with this filly, in fairness, we plenty of offers for her, and the owners, the involved, never showed any interest in selling, which is great. It's very good for me, to be honest, to be able to hold her in the yard. But look at it; it's ran very, very well. Owen Green, in fairness, does all the paperwork. I deal with Owen direct, and he dishes all the information back out to the syndicate members. But look at it; it's worked out well. We've been lucky away with the few horses we've had with Owen. I'm sure long may it last.
Gypsy Island, of course, is another mare, Peter, who had a high reputation. Does she compare to Gypsy Island in any way in her early days? And how is she doing, actually, Peter?
Yeah, it's very hard to compare the two of them, to be honest with you. Like Gypsy Island was a very sharp, quick filly, and this is what the very same as Ryan Kahala is doing at the moment. Like, she's finishing out her races very, very well and showing it on her foot. I've seen Gypsy Island. She's not back in training with me yet. I seen her last weekend. She's progressing very well. Everything, touch wood, everything is going away. Her progress is coming back well, and she's hopefully back with me in the next couple of weeks.
What's the plan with her, ideally?
Look at it. I suppose we haven't any solid plan yet. It's just rehab work with her and getting her back. But at the same time, she's progressing very well.
That's good to hear, Peter. And coming on to some of your other stable stars, Peregrine Run won at Killarney on good ground. He's an 11-year-old. He'd 17 career wins and has had a bit of a break. How is he, Peter? And will we see him maybe back in the springtime?
Yeah, look at he came back in, I think, the first day or two of the new year. He's back in training. He put on a bit of weight and that, but look at he's in good nick. Our plan with him is to try get him for the Grand National if the ground was good. If not, we wait for long for some of them summer races again, But ideally, if we thought the ground to be a nice ground in the Grand National, that would be our ultimate aim with him, and that's what we're training him for at the moment. But he won't go over there even unless the ground is good,
Some servant, Peter. And Savia Pimpernel rated 142 over hurdles. Reached a fair level there. He finished second over fences at Leopardstown at Christmas. Were you happy with that run?
I was happy with that run because I ran him on very heavy ground the first day in Tipperary, and it knocked the stuffing out of him, to be honest. But I was actually happy with that race. He got a little bit tired towards the end of it, but his jumping was an awful lot better. His first day, like his schooling at home, was brilliant. He never made a mistake. But when we brought him to his first run in Tipperary, he jumped terrific. His jumping was a lot better in Leopardstown. I do think he'd progress into a very, very nice chaser, But he might go to Thurles for a 2-mile beginner's chase there in the middle of February.
Just missed out today, Peter, and getting into the TS days. And look, the form looks good now with Run Wild Fred finishing second. Have you a backup plan?
Couple of options with him. Look, he's in the big dog. We have him entered declared for Navan on Friday. He's in a beginner's chase there. I think it's over 3 mile. I think the ground and conditions that suit him, and even Navan track that suit him well too. And we also stuck him into a national trial in Punchestown in mid-February. It's a handicap as well. So we have a couple of options for him. He's also, I think, the old 4 miler in Cheltenham. Like, we've plenty of options with him. It depends on how he runs the next day. Like his first run was a nice run, and then he was unlucky against Ceta Kevin in his second run. And then we went back and we ran a nice race the last day behind Gordon's horse that was second in the Thyestes. So look at he's a nice horse. He's progressing well. He had a good year and a half off with a bit of an injury, but I think he'll develop into a very nice stage acer this season, even, you know.
Lucky Tenor won a bumper at Limerick and makes his hurdles debut this weekend, where he's down to run anyway, Peter, as we're speaking. Himself and the Elliott runner, I thought they pulled miles clear of the rest of the field. He looks nice.
He is. He's a nice horse. He was actually owned by my daughter Kate, and my brother Jarlath owned him in half shares, and we sold him after he won his when he was third in Thurles in his bumper to Jason Byrne. And look, it was great for him. He came out and won in Limerick at Christmas, but he's probably in the hotter division of the two maiden hurdles in Fairyhouse. But look, he's a nice horse. He'll develop away nicely as it goes along. I think he'd appreciate probably a little bit nicer ground, even though considering he won in heavy ground in Limerick. But he'd appreciate a bit of nicer ground, and I think he'll develop into a nice novice hurdler. Yeah.
You expect him to go well on Saturday?
I do. I think he'll run a big race.
Belfast Banter is in the Limestone Lad at Naas on Sunday. Is the plan to run?
I'm not sure yet. I'll just see what numbers. The problem with Belfast Banter is he ran a cracking race in the English Ladbroke Hurdle, and he's not a high enough mark to get into the county hurdle. So we'd love for him to run a nice race in some of them better races and get a few pounds that we could get into the county hurdle. Our whole aim is to get into the county hurdle. He's a horse that has loads of pace and travels into his races, which would suit the county hurdle because they go very quick. So our whole thing with him is we're trying to get him up a bit in the weights to get into the county hurdle. But there's a chance he could go to Musselburgh to the trials day on Sunday week. There's a Supreme Novice trial race over there, which doesn't be a huge field. So you might go over there and try our luck back over in England with him, you know, across the line, you know.
Absolutely. The big one, of course, Royal Kahala. And just a couple of questions from Twitter. There's one in particular. This is coming from Chunister. All being well with a good run this Saturday, Peter, is Cheltenham on the cards for her, or would you maybe wait and go back to the Grade 1 at Fairyhouse? Is it the Mayor's Final?
Yeah, look, it'll probably be decided by the syndicate and the filly if she comes out of the race. How she runs the weekend will decide kind of where we go. Like, I think it's a very good race the weekend, and like if she happened to win it, I'd say she could end up being favourite for Cheltenham. You know what I mean? So it'd be hard to turn your back on it and say we're going to wait for Fairyhouse. But we'll chat to the syndicate afterwards, see how she runs. Chat to the syndicate afterwards. But look, I suppose everyone dreamed to have a go to Cheltenham with a chance, and if she happened to win the weekend and she was favourite for it, I think it'd be very hard to leave her at home if she was right.
Yeah, lads, it's been won by some smart types over the last 5 years. Limini, Shatter's Love, Lorena, Honeysuckle, Manila Medley. It's on at 1:58 at Saturday at Fairyhouse. That's the Solerina Grade 3 race. And of course, that could throw pointers now towards the Mayor's Novice. Ronan, come to you, because Royal Kahala, you're a big fan of Honeysuckle. Could this be Honeysuckle the second? She's shown a serious liking to Fairyhouse.
Yeah, she has. And there's a nice programme there of mares races at Fairyhouse that the likes of Honeysuckle have kind of prospered with in their novice year, and Royal Kahala seems to be the one this season. She was really good the last day, Barry, and I know the horses she beat there, Hook Up, was well fancied, well backed on the day. She went off evens, and though she made a kind of mistake at the last Hook Up, Royal Kahala still went by her very easy, and you'd have to think that even without that mistake from Hook Up, that Royal Kahala would have won. Still very smart. I know the owner, or not the owner, but the fellow who organises the syndicate, the Winning Way Syndicate, quite well. I did a few pieces with him before, and just said that they're not a selling type of syndicate. So the mare's been given plenty of time just to develop, and that's been key to her. They could have went for bumpers like winners bumpers and stuff, but Peter Fahey's been given all the time just to let her develop, and they seem to be getting the rewards of it now. Now, saying that, the race on Saturday is a very good race, and you have to look at Kenny Alexander's 2 in there again. He's trying to win this race now for the 3rd year in a row, and Gauloise, I think she did it very nicely at Thurles the last day. And the one I'm going to give quite a favourable mention to is kind of mare I've been looking at even through the flat season, Mighty Blue for Joseph O'Brien. She did really well in the flat, bought in from France. She was bought in from Francis Henry Graffard's, and kind of progressed from a mark of 88 up to about 104. She was sent hurdling then, and she ran really nice. She was 4th in a maiden hurdle won by C. Decor, kind of a maiden hurdle that's worked out really well. Get My Drift was third in that race, and it's produced another winner as well. The name escapes me now, but Mighty Blue was then second to Gauloise in that listed race at Thurles, and she just kind of pulled hard. It was only her second start over hurdles, and she still managed to be there at the end of the race despite pulling hard, and she gets a 3 pound swing with Gauloise now, so I think she could run huge, perhaps at probably a bigger price than the likes of Gauloise and Royal Kahala. So very interesting to see how the race goes, Barry. As you said yourself, the winner of this race will 100% be one of the main pretenders for the Mayor's Novice at Cheltenham when you listed out all those previous winners. So whatever wins here, it has got to have a huge chance when the festival comes around.
Yeah, would you echo what Ronan said, I suppose, about the strength of this race, Davy, and all roads lead to Cheltenham, you'd have to imagine, for the winner?
Yeah, I agree with what Ronan said, especially about Joseph's horse and what he said about the favourite, Peter's horse. Oran does a great job there with the Winning Way Syndicate. They used to have horses with Colin Murphy, and when Colin finished up, then they moved there. I know a couple of lads who are actually in the syndicate as well, but it's very well done. It's great to see them with a good horse, especially a mare as well. Hook Up did make quite a bad mistake at the last, but the way Kevin Sexton, he's brilliant the way he rides. He's great on those horses when they're travelling so well. And it looked like that she had loads left. So she's going to be very tough to beat. But a horse that I do like is Delvino. She was very disappointing the last day, but I know Darren McLaughlin thinks an awful lot of this horse. And I think if you can scratch out her run from the last day, I'd give her another chance. But I think they're all going to have to work very hard to beat the favourite.
Yeah, we actually don't have prices at the moment. I haven't seen prices, but you'd have to imagine, Mike Vince, like what David was saying, the Royal Kahala will be favoured. And, the course and distance form, as you see, we saw mares, that take a liking, obviously, to Fairyhouse, Honeysuckle, the one that we could mention. But I was absolutely blown away by her the last day, Royal Kahala. I thought it was a strong race. Davey mentioned Delvino, but she never came off the bridle. And you'd have to think the ground again is in her favour, back on the course, and 2 mile 2 furlong. She's a big, imposing filly, and I'm majorly excited about her.
Yeah, I need to mention this Castralatera of Joseph Jack Kennedy riding in the Jigginstown colours, because actually, if my memory serves, and the brain trust will tell me if I'm wrong, didn't it actually beat Royal Kahala in a Naas bumper the weekend before Cheltenham last year? Mm-hmm. I mean, Gauloise has done everything right. I remember watching the race in Ligier when Willie Mullins had the winner Gauloise, and the second out of the race, and the second only beat the ambulance home last time. But Gauloise is doing nothing but improve, like Mighty Blue as well. Competitive race, but I think Castralatera might just be coming to the board and an away win for Jack Kennedy, riding in well-known silks, but not with the name G. Elliott in the training column.
Lads, we're going to come on to Doncaster first this weekend, the 205. We're sticking with the fillies. Yorkshire Rose Mares Hurdle, it's a grade 2, and Nicky Henderson has the 1 and 2 in here. Floressa 13-8, Nico de Boinville up. Marie's Rock is a 5-2 chance here. She's rated 141. Miranda for Paul Nichols 11-4. 9-1 is Raina's World. Irish Row is a 10-1 shot, and So Pats for Phil Middleton is 33-1. Mike Vince, let's come to you on this. Am I right? Did you like Floressa last time? Did you? Was it you or Ronan Groome that mentioned her?
Floressa, she did really well, winning the what used to be called the Jerry Fielden at Newbury at the end of November. And our best wishes go to Jerry McGrath for a speedy recovery. He rode her superbly that day. Sadly, he's still in hospital after that horrible fall in the National Hunt flat race. And de Boinville rides, but de Boinville's in town to ride Shishkin, of which more I'm sure in a moment. Fourth in the Christmas hurdle, so they put the horse into the big time behind Silver Streak, and that is easily the best form around here. Got to give weight away. The ground I don't think is going to be too bad. I'm very strong on Floressa here.
Ronan, thoughts?
That was one of my rare winners on the podcast, Floressa for the Jerry Field.
I was thinking it was you that mentioned him, or her.
Her, yeah, and but I actually think Marie's Rock can reverse the form this time. Marie's Rock was all the rage before that race. She was
That's
going
right.
in there off a mark of 141. She'd won 3 of her races last season, and she was coming there okay in the straight. Now I'm not going to say she was going to win or anything, but the horse that I think that fell in front of her, Time White, Harry Cobden, I think, hampered her very badly and just lost all chance from there. Floresta was a nice winner on the day, did it well from the front, and has gone on to run well in the Christmas hurdle, but she was well held there as well. She probably ran as well as you would have expected her to run. I just think the soft ground makes a difference here, and Marie's Rock with that run under her belt and all that kind of confidence behind her isn't so unfounded that she shouldn't be, close to favourite again here, because she's going to get £2 swing with Floresta as well. And I just thought, yeah, they probably should be a bit closer in the betting. It's interesting that Marie's Rock was kind of prompted as a possible for the Betfair hurdle, and they decided to come here instead, which is a big shout if you're looking at her mark there. But this is a grade 2, and it probably is the right decision because she's only facing 5 here, and I give her a big chance of turning the form of Floresta. I think she should be close enough to her in the betting than the price she is now. I think she's around 5-2.
We'll stick with you, Ronan Groome, for the 240 at Doncaster. It's the Albert Bartlett River Dan Novices Hurdle. It's a grade 2 over 3 miles and a half a furlong. Nicky Henderson again has the favourite in here with Emir Sakri. Flash Calange is a 5-1 shot. Ashtown Lad 6-1. Ask a Honeybee 13-2. Pat's Fancy 15-2. 8-1. Bob Hope or No Hope. Exploiter is a 10-1 chance. Fern Hill is an 11-1 chance. Castle Robin 14-1. It's 14-1 the rest. But I noticed you like Shang Tang. The last day at Ascot, he put in a pretty poor display. I thought it was a pretty strange run, and I kind of liked him here at a bigger price. If he could maybe bounce back to form, I thought he was showing a good level up to that point.
Yeah, I was disappointed. I thought he could possibly handicap Shang Tang, but never really showed up on the day. To be honest, this race is a bit of a mess, Barry, I have to say. Well, not a mess, but it's just very hard to find a betting angle when you're dealing with, umpteen last time out winners, all novices, all kind of low 130 rated. It's a 92 to field type of race, and you can see why. The one I just point people in the direction of maybe is Ashtown Lad. I think Dan Skelton was quite confident going to Cheltenham the last day, and just the slow nature of that race, he was 5th behind Make Good, and I think that was down to how that race was run. It was quite slowly run, and this Ashtown Lad is a bit of a stayer. I believe he'll come here probably now with Cheltenham in doubt. He was engaged there as well. But the soft ground and maybe more of a truer pace could suit him, so that would be the one, but not a confidence select.
On the listed handicap at Doncaster, the 315, it's the Sky Bet Handicap Chase. Listed race, as I said, over 3 miles. Captain Ord is a 5-2. Favourite in here, Canelo for Alan King and JP McManus. Tom Canning up is a 5-1 chance. 1 for the team, 6-1. I Wright, who was all the rage for the Labrook, is 8-1. Musical Slave 9-1. Rocky's Treasure 12-1. Give Me a Copper 14-1. Mr. Malarkey 14-1, and a 16-1 the rest. Mike Vince, there's a couple in here I think that you've thrown out in the past, and I'd be interested to know what you fancy in here.
Yeah, this is of course the old Great Yorkshire, and then we were talking about Kim Bailey, weren't we, last week? And Kim Bailey won this in 1990. Yeah, 30 years on, and he's returning to some of the form he had in those days. I'm going to chance one here at the very bottom, because I think Musical Slave getting weight, and he's getting 1 stone 5 pounds before John Joe's allowance comes in of Mr. Malarkey. I writes the class act, but I just think he might not like the track. Musical Slave, we haven't seen him win since he won easily the Punchestown Festival 2 years ago. He won the conditional final. Tom O'Brien's gone up to ride him in a race where there are question marks about all 13 of them. I think he's in on bottom weight significantly. He's leaving actually not far from my home here in Somerset very early in the morning to go to Donny. He's around about 9-1. I think he's a cracking good each way bet.
Yeah, that was the one. That was the one I was thinking you might put up, Mike Vince, Musical Slave. Nice run. The last time we saw him behind Clondalk Castle, I don't think Richard Johnson was too hard on him. He's only rated £6 higher over fences than he is over hurdles. Bike getaway, he looks every inch a chaser. And the Hobbs Yard is starting to come back into a bit of form. I thought he was very interesting here. I see there is support from him already in 12s to 9s, and I could see him shortening up. He'd be one of my best bets of the weekend. Ronan Groome. We'll come to Davy on this. Davy, had you thoughts on the Sky Bet listed handicap 3:15 at Doncaster on Saturday?
I'm going to be boring enough, but I think the favourite will have a right chance. You look at his form there at Kempton behind Venetia's horse Royal Pregal. It's very good form, especially after what he did. I know he didn't beat much in the Peter March last week, but I think it's very good form. And Christian Williams very good with these stayers. So I'm going to stick with the favourite.
Roland, thoughts?
I think anyone who fancies Musical Slave must be pulling their hair out now, because I really fancy him as well. I think he's a great price, 8 or 9 to 1. I was just looking at going through his form there from last season, and 2 excellent runs. Go back to Haydock around this time last season. He finished 3rd to Caribbean Boy and a horse called the Big Bite. But the front 3 pulled clear that day, and Caribbean Boy and the Big Bite have both won nice races since. You go on to Uttoxeter. He finished 2nd on heavy ground, 3 miles there to Sam's Adventures, won again since. Excellent run on his comeback at Newbury over 2.5 miles in that race, won by Clondalk Castle. That was a nice race. It worked out well as well. And you'd probably say 2.5 miles in good ground might just be a bit sharp for him. So I thought that was a brilliant run. He made a mistake at the first, which kind of shuffled him back. So I thought he did really well to come through for 5th. Soft ground, 3 miles left-handed. I give him a huge chance. I think around 9 to 1. That is one of the bets of the weekend as well.
Yeah, lads, before we move on from Doncaster, the 130, of course, one of the most exciting horses in training. Last year's Supreme Novice hurdle winner's having his 3rd start over fences, all the rage for the Arkle. He's going to be he's winning all types of ground, Shishkin. Soft ground here. And he's given £5 away to the second horse. He's a 2 to 9 shot. I mean, it's a matter of how far, is it, Mike?
I would have thought so, and I would have thought the Tizzle horse, Eldorado Allen, is the one for those of you that want the forecast here.
He was left in front, but I think his jumping was excellent that day. Speaking of Tizard, he doesn't think he lacks pace. And, he might get a bit closer to Shishkin than people think. I think the last day he got outpaced early on, and it looked for a stride or two, only after a fence, that he was in trouble and was even going to see out the race. He stayed on into 4th, but it just was a strange run. I never expected him to, get outpaced in that race. I know it was a fair race with All Mankind, but I think you're right, Mike, for the forecast, Eldorado Allen. My eyes will be on him because I think he completely disappointed the last day. Had you thoughts on Eldorado Allen or this race in general, Davy?
No, not really. I'm a huge fan of Shishkin. They won't see which way he goes. You say about £5. He give them whatever sort of weight he wants, in my opinion. I think he's really exciting. I think he's going to be a better chaser than he was over hurdles. He has everything. He jumps, very high cruising speeds, and he can quicken as well. I think he's a very exciting horse, and I don't think I can't see him being beaten for the rest of the season, to be honest.
He was left in front, but I think his jumping was excellent that day. Speaking of Tizard, he doesn't think he lacks pace. And, he might get a bit closer to Shishkin than people think. I think the last day he got outpaced early on, and it looked for a stride or two, only after a fence, that he was in trouble and was even going to see out the race. He stayed on into 4th, but it just was a strange run. I never expected him to, get outpaced in that race. I know it was a fair race with All Mankind, but I think you're right, Mike, for the forecast, Eldorado Allen. My eyes will be on him because I think he completely disappointed the last day. Had you thoughts on Eldorado Allen or this race in general, Davy?
No, not really. I'm a huge fan of Shishkin. They won't see which way he goes. You say about £5. He give them whatever sort of weight he wants, in my opinion. I think he's really exciting. I think he's going to be a better chaser than he was over hurdles. He has everything. He jumps, very high cruising speeds, and he can quicken as well. I think he's a very exciting horse, and I don't think I can't see him being beaten for the rest of the season, to be honest.
Fair enough, lads. We're going to come on to Cheltenham. I suppose we didn't delve straight into it because we don't know what's going to happen. Mike, you're going to give us an update on the ground and the feature race. You caught up with one of the leading trainers.
Yeah, well, the story is this. They inspect at 2 o'clock on Friday afternoon to see if racing can take place. But they're forecast more rain Thursday into Friday. And if they do race, it's going to be 2 fences and 1 hurdle at least left out per circuit. On the worst areas, so it's going to be a right slog if it happens. 6 runners in the feature, the Paddy Park Cleeve hurdle, and Paisley Park is trying to gate crash the Mudlarks Age consortium. David Pike's Main Facts and Ramsey's Detai would probably be happy if the race was run in a river, and Ollie Murphy's Itchy Feet are the main dangers, but all eyes will be on Paisley Park. Trying to be the first horse since, anybody know before I tell you, to win 3 of these Cleeve hurdles?
I read it earlier on.
No, Lady Rebecca was the last. And she did it across the century. Started in 1999. She won 3 in a row. And Camp Paisley Park following her footsteps. Well, I did catch up with trainer Emma Lavelle. Given how desperately testing it was at Ascot, does that put your mind at rest? Because clearly, if it's all systems go on Saturday, you've got a couple of notable mudlarks in against you, but he seemed to handle it well at Ascot.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's been so, he's been such a great horse, and that ground hasn't been a particular issue to him. So, clearly, ideally, it wouldn't be bottomless, because I think that, very few horses are at their absolute best on it. But as you say, he handled heavy ground at Ascot last time, so it's not a big deal as far as we're concerned. If that's what it is, that's what it is.
And a big plus too, how much he loves Cheltenham.
Yeah, absolutely. He sees that hill, and under normal circumstances, he's always just, put his head down and galloped up it. It was one of the nice things about sort of wanting to run in the Cleeve this time around, was just almost to get an experience for him back at Cheltenham after what happened last year, without it being, the main event, without it being the Stayers. And so, that was one of the real appeals of going back there, was to banish any bad memories of it as far as he was concerned.
Is he a harder watch because he comes from the back? It's not like you're making the running and you're looking to see whether anything can get to you. You're not so worried if you're 2 lengths down jumping the last.
It has its moments. I wasn't worried about his heart, more mine at Ascot, but he makes it exciting anyway. And I think it's just that flat spot that he hits. He travels through the race well, and then there'll be just that moment, and you think, oh, what's he going to do? And then off he goes, and the turbo kicks in, and he finishes out his race. But he, if he's there, if he's on 4 feet, you could never write him off until the line. It's always interesting, Main Fact came into Ascot with a very similar profile to Paisley, and 2 seasons ago, and I think it's I think it will be interesting sort of having him back in opposition again. Itchy Feet is clearly the one that's the sort of new one to the mix, to see what he brings to the table. But all these races, they're competitive races. We've got to give away weight, and it'll be interesting to see what happens. But on all known form, he's definitely the one to beat.
Yeah, we're going to mention Naas, lads, the Limestone Lad hurdle. It's a grade 3. Nice little heat here. Of course, Sublime is in here. Beacon Edge, Granois was impressive for Gordon Elliott. Wolf Prince, Bacassion, Belfast Banter for Peter Fahey Darasso. They're just some of the ones there. There's 10 entered in there at the moment. The ground is soft to heavy. Davy, I'll come to you. I like Granois last time. I thought he was nice, and it'd be interesting to see if he wins here. Would he maybe go on to the Cheltenham Festival? Bet Wolf Prince by 8 lengths, so that was an impressive performance. It was on heavy ground at Limerick over Christmas. He was one, I suppose, that when I saw the entries, he stuck out to me. What about you?
Yeah, I'd agree with you there. I thought he was extremely tough in Limerick. Jesus, the ground was motherless down in Limerick at Christmas, and he fought very hard. I'd like him here. Yeah, I'd imagine he'd probably go to a handicap though in Cheltenham, won't he?
County hurdle, maybe potentially.
I'd say so. I'd say that's what he was probably bought for. He was bought for a lot of money. Not that matters to the owners.
400 grand cost.
Plus, wasn't it?
Just looking at it here, yeah.
Yeah. It'd be interesting to see what runs in that. We mentioned last week Kerry Bryan has been unfortunate with her American horses not getting a chance to run because of a few meetings have been called off. So Winston C will more than likely get his chance in Naas on Sunday. But it's not a race I have huge opinion on, but I get what you're saying about Gordon's Lad, yeah.
Ronan Groome, did you speak to Kerry Bryan recently, am I right?
I didn't know. We were organising her for the paper. She features in the paper this Saturday. Quite interesting read just about her whole operation and why she's come over to Ireland. And you know what, Winston C he's quite interesting on Sunday. He's quite a good horse for who was he with on the flat? I think is it Michael Bell, and he was quite useful horse. Yeah, he. It wouldn't surprise me at all if he ran well. Now, he hasn't ran in a while, so maybe it's a case that he just needs to run on Sunday if he does indeed run. And it's a good race, obviously, with Beacon Edge and Grand Raw. So, yeah, and just Barry, the grade 3 on that card, I'd imagine this might be where Pencil Full of Lead runs, perhaps instead of the Dublin Racing Festival, given that there's it's likely soft to heavy ground in Naas on Sunday. I think that's exactly what he needs. And as we were doing the Cheltenham previews, I mentioned that I was a big fan of this horse, but soft ground is very, very important to him. And he turned up here in the 2:15, the Grade 3 Novice Chase, where interestingly Asterion Forlange is entered as well. I think he'd take a hell of a lot of beating.
Tell you a horse in that role, and the form has worked out from today. And he ran in the National Hunt Chase last year. He's probably going to have to step up again, but I love the way he finished the last day with the ground being soft. Forza Milan. And wherever he goes, if he did go to Cheltenham, I see he's priced up in a couple of markets there. But Forza Milan, he is a 9-year-old, but I liked him the last day. And as I said, Coca Beach has come out and won. And it's that time of the weekend, Naps and MBs. Mike Vince, I think you were in the winners' enclosure quite a bit last weekend, and you're doing well all season, Mike Vince. You fire away with your Nap and MB of the weekend. Our viewers are going to be waiting in anticipation.
Well, I'm going to go for, as a Nap, Alna Dam in the 1:15 at Cheltenham. I think I can forgive his last run. And next best, go to Donny, go to the River Don, and go for Nichols and Cobden with Flash Collage. And that's the 2:40 at Doncaster. But I also think the boys' race at Fairyhouse on Saturday, It's Not In It, may well be in the winners' enclosure.
Davy Boland.
Well, Mike's after taking my nap there, yeah. My nap for the weekend is It's Not In It in Fairyhouse for Paul Nolan. And sure, I don't need to talk too much about him. And my next best is, I'm going to do what I did last week. I'm going to go on a Friday tomorrow in Navan in the bumper, and a horse called Outlaw Peter. I know Gordon's is well touted. It's meant to be a good horse, a leading light horse. And sure, Paul Shanahan, a horse for Willie Mullins, you'd always have to fear them. But Outlaw Peter at an each way price, he's my next best. It's Not In It as the nap.
Good record in the Friday bumpers. Of course, Fruit and Nuts, Davey did the business last week. That was a good selection by you. Ronan Groome. I have a feeling you're going to rob my nap this weekend, but I'll give you the honour.
Yeah. Musical Slave is my nap. 3:15 Doncaster Skybet handicap chase, and my next best is Marie's Rock also at Doncaster. I think that's the 130, isn't it? The Grade 2 mares novice hurdle, or not novice hurdle, just Grade 2 mares hurdle. Easy rock, next best.
Yeah. We had the same nap last weekend, Ron. That didn't work out so well, but it is the same nap again this weekend because Musical Slave is my nap of the weekend. I was going to change there to make it interesting, but no. And he has been back since we previewed the race. He's into 8-1 now, so that's Musical Slave. As we said, his race didn't work out so bad behind Clondalk Castle the last time. Wasn't given such a hard race. He is lightly raced for Philip Hobbs. The yard is back in good form, but I thought he was given an easy enough ride, as I said, and he's only rated £6 higher over fences than he is over hurdles. That's the Musical Slave nap at Doncaster in the 3:15, and I will go next best. I'm going to go for lads getting £5 from the leading top three in the market. St. Calvados, I'd take him to step forward from his run in the King George, and of course he's won at. Should have won the Ryanair last year. Probably get slated for saying that, but. Yeah, no, he's very interesting and still quite unexposed. Only had 17 runs in his life. It seems like he's been around quite a while, but lightly raced compared to the others. So that's the next best on St. Calvados. And yeah, that I suppose wraps up episode 14 for the season, lads. It was great to have Peter Fahey on. We wish him the best luck with Royal Kahala. We hope you enjoyed the podcast. For anyone who hasn't liked or subscribed, please do so. We do appreciate it. Let us know what your naps and MBs are down below, and we'll see you next Thursday.